So the webcast I'm presenting, if I could just get the last couple of people to mute your lines, it just makes it, with this many people on, it's a little hard to hear. My preference would be to be able to hear everybody. It makes it a little odd to present on these webcasts because you don't get a reaction back, but I'll go ahead and trust that the reaction's great and have everyone mute their lines.
How do you do that?
It's *6, I believe.
Hello?
Yeah. Sounds like you're still on. If someone else could come on, it's been maybe a little too long. I've been on this end of these. So is that still, are you still trying to mute that line? It's a little too loud on this end. Yeah, it sounds like we got some quiet. I guess I'll keep going. It might have been #6 on the mute. Yeah, so my name's Jesse Clark. I'm an applications engineer, civil 3D specialist for the PPI group, and I'm going to be presenting today a webcast on some hydraulic and hydrologic tools within civil 3D in order to make your lives a little bit easier with that. I know it's been, it's been for me, just a little bit of my background. Got a civil engineering degree in 1999. Worked for a small city in Northern California for a few years after that, where I started to get into a little hydrology. I ended up setting up their NPDS Phase 2 program down there, and that's where I first got into hydraulic modeling. Primarily down there is WaterCAD and SewerCAD, and setting up their system with that. And started in Sofdesk and came up through Land Development Desktop, and then came out to a private consulting firm where I was also doing similar work, a lot of utilities design. Started out with what I now call the beta release of Civil 3D in 2005, and so I've had a pretty keen interest, given that background, in moving pipes forward and the ability to, it's always been a little bit of a thorn in my craw, I guess, on how slow it is to come along, given that I see that pipes and hydrology and hydraulics are such an integral part of doing civil engineering. And that said, we've come a long way with this. But today I'm just going to present a few tricks that hopefully will make your lives a little bit easier and be able to move some of that the hydraulic and hydrology data in and around through Excel and through some different programs, and also get your labels to look like you want them to, and maybe give you a couple extra tools within the label styles using expressions.
It takes a little bit of time. It's a little slow. If it doesn't after you install it, then you can just go ahead and...
So if you're not able to, I'm hearing you talking about installing stuff, if you're not able to get your line muted, maybe back away from the phone when you're talking. So these are the topics that we have today for the Pipe Dreams webcast, as I said. First, I'm going to get into using custom expressions for hydraulic data, and what I have is I've written an expression for open channel gravity flow, Manning's equation, within the expressions, and once it's an expression, you're able to bring that expression into a label style and table style, and be able to show that the full capacity flow of that pipe as you're moving along. It's just a good design tool. Figured out a couple years back, and then from there we're going to move into some of the watershed tools within Civil 3D. I'm going to be doing a live demo for all this, and on the watershed tools, I don't know how many of you are using that, but there's some pretty good ones I've been using since the inception, really, Civil 3D. And we're going to bring those watersheds off the surface, extract them from that surface, and create parcels from those polygons. And then we'll go through and make some labels and tables based on that. And after that, it'll be I'm going to show you some land XML tricks and how to, or not necessarily tricks, but just how to bring the data out of Civil 3D into a hydraulic modeling program, the HydroFlow actually, which is shipping free with Civil 3D this year, and bring that out from there through the land XML into a Excel spreadsheet. And so we're going to do a stopover in there. You can come right out of Civil 3D, but we're going to do a stopover in HydroFlow and pick up some flow data before we bring it out. So with that said, let's launch into a live demo here. And there's going to be a couple things in here that are more specific to Civil 3D 09. As I think about it, there's nothing of substance that I'm going to be doing in here that can't be done in 08. It's more some of the fluff tools, but I know a lot of people are waiting for that Service Pack 1 before they install this on their machine. And that said, I bet it's been pretty stable. There is a couple minor issues with the pipes are coming along, and I found in pipe drawings, just as an aside, an audit becomes a little more important, it seems like, with some of the pipe runs I've been working with, and seeing with some of the clients I've been working with too. But once you run those audits, it seems to clean it up pretty well. So here I've got a site. It's basically it's up in Vancouver, Washington. A site we picked out it's ready for development, actually, and I've got a lot of parcels laid in around this and stuff. But right now I've just got the finished ground turned on, and I've got a pipe run drawn up through here, as you can see. And so the first thing that I want to show you is just launching right in. You can see, I'm starting out with a couple catch basins down at this end, running up with 18-inch PVC catch basins along the way. And let's launch right into the expressions now. So it runs up here and comes out to an outfall in this pond, which isn't built in this iteration of the finished grade, but that's my little peanut pond that we wanted to put in. And just an aside, I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at the new features. The reason that we have this peanut pond in here is it shows off one of the great new features actually is in grading. I know it's not what we're talking about today, but grading objects are able to grade into each other. I'm not going to get into that, but this peanut pond is kind of able to show that off. So then we come up to an outfall, 18-inch storm all the way along, and some catch basins. So the first thing we want to do, and I'm not sure, if it seems like in my experience when I'm out there, not too many people have played with the expressions, but if you come into the settings tab here, so I'm in the settings tab in Prospector, and I expand the pipes, expand the label styles, and under plan and profile, I've already got some expressions built in here just for the sake of expediency for today's webcast and getting through everything, I wanted to have them pre-built, but you can see I can come in here, and that's the expression. And most of these, back over the tool space in the settings tab, most of the label styles, when you bust into them in the settings tab, you can write these sorts of expressions. So you can see here I've just written it for Manning's equation. I'm not sure how clear, hopefully relatively clear that's showing up, but it's pretty simple. Everybody knows what Manning's is. And you can see in here the insert properties. This gives you all the available properties. It's actually something, in my experience, if one way isn't working, and I've run into this with a few expressions I've written, including rational method expression, that you end up having to, in this case, I actually wasn't able to, it's listing a property that you should be able to bring in here, which would be the pipe diameter, inner pipe diameter. You'd think that would be what you'd want to use, or there's even a radius, pipe radius down here highlighted, and the pipe diameter up here. But I found that those don't actually work when I bring those into the expression for whatever reason. There's a Manning's coefficient that, it'd be great if that worked, and I've got that, escalated up to my Autodesk guy, but the Manning coefficient doesn't work, and so it's in there manually, as you can see. But the way I was able to trick that out was to get, I'm basically doing a start crown minus a start invert, and as my diameter in this Manning's expression. And so then you can see there's also way more mathematical functions than you'd ever use in here. So when those expressions are built, then you can come back in and you can see I've got two expressions on here, one for velocity, one for capacity of those pipes. And once those are built, then I can come in here, and this is the one that's already built, just built off a copy of one of the standard plan and profile pipe label styles. And so breaking open this label style, you can see, and for those of you that have been using this for a bit, you come in, edit the label style, come to the layout tab of that label style, and it's the contents is where the meat of the label style is. So you can just click on those ellipses and start to affect everything from the formatting of how that label style shows up to also the properties. Precision becomes important for, you've all seen out of the box, we've got a couple decimal places there on our contour labels, which is still there in 09, unfortunately, but this is where you come in and change that on the contour label styles. So here we're just, now that I've written that expression, I can come in here, and under the properties, that pipe capacity expression is available to me. And so I've just added it over here, which for those of you who haven't been in there, you got to remember, if you're going to update that, like say I want to change that formatting on that one, then I come over the formatting tab, and I want it to show green now for whatever reason. And pipe capacity, and that's a decent precision, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight pipe capacity and bring it back in. Whoops. Didn't quite hold there. Imply it. Oops. units over here on this end, because those typically won't come in. You add them manually. So that's how that one got in there. And then similarly, so now that I've got that label style in here, I can come in any of these pipes. I guess the alpha pipe would be the most logical one to bring this into. And right click on that and go edit label style. And now I've got my length, material, and slope with capacity as a style in there, and I can bring that right in. It just gives you a good, I use this in design, which I just came out of design last October, and yeah, I use it, as a design tool more than as a planned production tool. So there's also, along with that expression, once I brought that expression in, you can see it's now available to my table styles too. So I've created this table style with the name, size, length, slope, material, capacity, velocity. Kind of a long name. I don't know if that would pass many CAD managers, but that's mine. And so just to bust into this a little bit, I'm not sure how many of you have used the tables too much in Civil 3D, but you can see here, so these are my names up here, and those are all editable, and you're just going to type in the text, and you can, affect how that text shows up any way you want. And then over here, the column width, automatic, you don't generally need to mess with that, but you can do it on the fly too. Then pipe velocity and capacity I've added in here. And so once I've added a column, so I'll just go ahead and get rid of that column for now. And then I'm going to add a column. I'm going to call it velocity. Feet per second.
This is for the table.
And then yeah, exactly. What I'm working on here is a table style to bring in my custom expressions that I've written for velocity and capacity. So you can see I I'll back out of that for a second, but double click on any of these to affect what's going on here. So I'm going to come down into this first row of this velocity column, double click in there, and that brings me into this label editing format that you're used to if you've edited any of these label styles. And so in here you can see my pipe capacity is there, my pipe velocity is there. Now that, again, because I've written an expression, it shows up in these properties for these specific label and table styles. And so I'm just going to come over here. I guess in this case I don't need. And so now that property of the AEC objects is in there. And so I'm just going to say OK. You can come around and just like any style, it should all be pretty familiar, affect how it displays and affect how the text displays as well in there. So say OK, and it seems to be, I think some of this choppiness is on my Camtasia and not in the program. But now that, so it's not like, I heard a couple people come in a little late, and yeah, so I came in and added this label style here based on that, and we can, I don't know why I'm getting an echo all of a sudden of my own voice, but so I'm going to come across here, and in the pipes now I can make a table, and I'm going to add a pipe table, and my table style is that one that we just built that's got the capacity and the velocity in there as well. Not sure whose phone is ringing there. And obviously I'd want to get back into that style. You know, I can do it quickly. I'm showing way too much precision here in my velocity and capacity, but you start to get an idea of what you can do once you are able to get in and you know, edit and write custom expressions using the mathematics and the features of the AEC objects with themselves, with the, you know, engineering equations that you use every day and probably use within a Excel spreadsheet typically now. And you can do similar stuff. You can make your own label style, and I've got one for, you know, labeling rational method, just manually plugging in the C factor and the intensity and getting a label on there that's actually going to give you the flow based on a certain storm event within that watershed. So that was our table. So far we've come in and just quickly showed how we can label, use custom expressions and label pipes, and create custom tables. And now I'd like to launch in to some of the watershed tools that you may or may not have played with at this point within Civil 3D. That's just out of the box stuff, and then we'll do a couple more tricks. What I want to do here is I'm going to get in and turn on some of the watershed stuff. You can see I've actually built myself a watershed style, and I recommend doing that. It'll typically again be a design style that you turn it back to 1:5 background or design depending on finished grade, existing grade when you're done. But all that is, and I'll show you real quick, is just a copy of that 1:5 design where I've left on the contours and I've turned on my slope arrows and my watersheds in that. So I'm going to say okay to that. And all this coloring and banding is, you can change that within the style, obviously, the display of the style. One of my favorite tools for design, you know, and it works really well for road design. It's how I did some of my, you know, how I placed my catch basins in here, and particularly in parking lot design. It's a good tool is these slope arrows, and like anything else, you can affect the color. The colors have to do with the grade, obviously. And so here we've got our watersheds turned on in here as well. And the next thing we're going to do is, I've found, and I've talked to some other people who, you know, independently arrived at the same conclusion too, that the parcels are a little more powerful. You're able to do a little bit more with them in terms of importing, exporting, labeling, that sort of thing, and querying. And so it's a good idea actually you can turn these watersheds on, and then I'm going to come up here to surfaces, and I'm going to extract those watersheds off the surface actually and create parcels from those resultant polygons. And so I come up to surfaces, utilities, and extract from surface. I'll go ahead and just select the surface, and it gives me all these options. I can pull those slope arrows off. That's not going to be very useful. The major and minor contours, I've used these for different things, particularly in grading. You can use them to extract contours off of there and give yourself a new feature line to grade off of, that sort of thing. But right now I just want to extract the watersheds, and I want to select all. I could select from drawing if I just wanted a couple of them there, but I'm just going to have it pull all those watersheds off the surface. And now that I've done that, I've got polygons here representing the watershed boundaries. So I'm going to select on one of those and right click, and I want to actually grab all of them. And what I want to do here is first I want to use isolate objects. And for those of you, those are, you know, these are tools that are extremely useful, that are, you know, relatively new to the program. Not everybody's aware of them or using them. So just to go through that one more time, on the right click, and then you can select similar, right click again anywhere in the screen, and you can isolate those selected objects. And this is just for ease of selection, when what I want to do is come up here to parcels and create parcels out of each of those watersheds. So I'm going to come to parcels and create parcels from objects. Window select all those parcels. This is going to ask me, to set up the style. I've created a watershed style in here. And all it is I've got an ANSI fill on there. You can do whatever fill you'd want. And the name. And this name is what's going to show up. In a lot label style. This is called lot, and then the number 1 or whatever it is. But in the watershed parcel label style that I've created, it's called watershed. And so I'm going to say OK to that, and everything else looks pretty decent other than the layer 0 here. So I'm just going to come in real quick and create a watershed layer to drop those in on. Something watercolored would be in order here. So I'm going to pick 130. I'm going to say OK to that. The area label style, I actually want to get in here and do name, square foot, and acres for my area label style. And like anything else, I could bust into that label style or edit and copy it and create my own if there's something a little more useful. Just going to chunk through and put, my ANSI fill isn't looking that great to me. I'd probably come in and play with that, but you can see I've got my watershed label, square feet and acres in there, and then I could come in here to the parcels from that and add tables. So I just want to get I'm going to accept this. I do have a custom table built, but yeah. So in the template I'm in, the custom table that I would use for this actually isn't in here, and I'm not going to bother you with that. You can see I've got some things in here that I wouldn't want to have, but you can quickly see how the parcel number, would be labeled watershed up here, but the area and the other information on that would be good. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that table. And that's primarily, all I really have time to go over now in terms of these, other than I do want to get in here and it's just bugging me a little too much. So that's a little bit better, a little bit more readable. And so at that point, then you've got those labels. You can pull those out through an XML into various hydrology programs if you want. You can also pull those out. A good tool is the HEC programs will read an SDF, and you can do file export civil objects to SDF, and now that it's in there as a parcel, you can get those watersheds out into HEC-RAS or other HEC programs. I know a lot of them, other than the heck programs, do read those as well. That's just one that I was looking at. So the next thing we want to do is let's get our drawing back to where we had it. So you right click anywhere on the screen, isolate objects, and end the object isolation. And so now I brought that back up. I've still got my parcels on that layer extracted, and I want to go ahead and turn that parcel label off at this point just so it doesn't get in my way. The watershed label, excuse me. Sorry, I forgot to put my hatch on the right layer here. So this is a pretty useful tool. It's pretty powerful. I mean, I know that I've spent a lot of time getting watersheds on there, and especially being able to extract them and communicate with different programs other than the CAD program. So the ability to real quickly, just through a label style, what we did there is just went into our label style into the display tab and turned on some watershed features, and then we're able to use the surface tools to extract those objects off the surface. And once that was done, we had them within parcels, and like I was saying, you're then able to quickly create tables from that and communicate with other programs through, primarily through SDF. You could also come out like through the HydroFlow that's now available, shipping with Civil 3D. You can come out with those parcels and use them as a background as you're laying out your pipe runs. So now that we've walked through that, I think that's about all I want to cover for that, because I want to get into the linking to Excel and the land XML schema. And so out of here, what I want to do, now I'm relatively happy, preliminary design on my pipes. I want to bring it out to a hydraulic program, and hopefully everybody's aware right now. If you're not aware or haven't loaded it up or have any questions on HydroFlow, please feel free to contact me, or we can talk at the end here. I'm going to shoot for wrapping up in 10 to 12 minutes here and give ourselves some time for question and answer at the end for sure. So I'm going to come to the File, pull down, and export to land XML. Like I said, that same menu, you come out to SDF and bring yourself into the HEC programs as well. And in here, all I'm really wanting to bring in is the pipes. So here I just have my pipe, my one pipe network selected here. I'm going to give this one rather than overwrite those other ones, because this one alive. So I want to show you a few differences or a few changes that you can make in between the two. And so here we're just coming out of Civil 3D with that XML just to the pipes. And then you can come into here, and for those of you who, the XML, as you probably know, is editable through any text editor. However, what I'm using here is the XML Notepad, which I highly recommend getting. It's a free download from Microsoft. If anyone has trouble finding, you should just be able to Google and get there. But give me a call. I can send you the link, and you can download this. Real quick download as well. But it gives you a few more tools, and it's more intuitive. As you can see, I can get in here and anything here, select over here and highlight it, and these are the fields within the schema. This is what it's calling out, and you'll see in a second it's a little bit different. You can see up here I'm using land XML, or Civil 3D actually is coming out the land XML 1.1. I'll show you in a second. In the second part, what you're doing is downloading a schema, and that allows you to bring it into a spreadsheet. But just to note what version of land XML your program that you're spitting out of HydroFlow is also using 1.1, but there could be some other ones out there that are still on 1.0, and you want to make sure you get the right schema in there. So again, I'm up here, and I can see I'm using land XML 1.1, or Civil 3D is using that. There's a 1.2 beta available, and it won't work. If you're trying to import based on that schema, it's not going to work. So then, just coming down through here, I don't have a project name yet. One will come out of HydroFlow, you'll see. My imperial, that just shows you what units you're going to be using. My area unit is set to acres based on my drawing settings coming out of Civil 3D. And actually, I apologize. I had opened up the one coming out of HydroFlow, and this tells me that right there is the last program to touch that. It's pretty useful. Again, you'd be able to see this right within your text editor, but this is a lot more intuitive, a lot more editable, and I'll show you a couple tricks that you can mass edit some of the functions there. I should turn Instant Messenger off, and I apologize, but that was actually someone asking for expressions from when I presented this at the users group, or a portion of this anyway. And so I actually, for now, don't want to be in this one. And so I'm going to go ahead and back out of that and open up the live one that we just created out of Civil 3D. And so I can see coming down into here, my application now, that's going to tell me that that's where that came out of, because as you get a few programs going, you may not know, and for those of you who have used a little HydroFlow or have seen some of the demos, there's a back and forth going on. So just busting into your XML can give you a lot of information sometimes. I'm going to come down in here, and you can see I can expand my structures, and this is just a folder for each structure. It tells you the name. Now I could come in here and edit this if it was my preference. A lot of programs that will touch the XML will occasionally change names. And just to show off one of the quick tricks, you can see all my structures and pipes have this parentheses, Lacamas SD, their name in the network along with the pipe. Maybe you want that. I don't necessarily like it. So I'm going to come down here to my editing tools. It's not the most powerful one, but it shows off some of the stuff that you can do by using XML Notepad rather than just Notepad. And so I'm going to say, let's go ahead and find all instances of Lacamas-SD and just replace them with nothing. What this is going to do, this is just going to clean up some of my tables too. I'd like to bring this now into HydroFlow or another hydraulic program, and having those as part of the name wasn't doing me any favors. And so now I've gone through that, and you saw it dynamically happening. It took all those off. The one downer on the whole thing is it does end up expanding every folder when it does that. And so now that I've got a decent, I could have come in and done a little more editing for sure on this. Let me just reduce my structures here. But you can, if you've tried to edit XMLs in just Notepad, you can probably see some of the power of downloading this free download. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I want to bring this out into HydroFlow. So this is actually one that's already been brought in. I can go ahead and open up a new one though. So it's having a little bit slower time. We've got a few things running. I think Camtasia's slowing it down. But for those of you who haven't been into HydroFlow, it's a great program. I think. I mean, I myself had used Hasted products primarily, as well as HEC-RAS and HEC-HMS, but had never used HydroFlow when it was owned by IntelliSol. But it's got all the power and more of a StormCAD. Not quite the user interface yet, but I imagine that's in the works. And the one downside, was just purchased in December, and it hasn't been integrated fully with Civil 3D. So in other words, you're communicating through the Land XML. And I guess that choppiness, I thought I was opening, but I think it's just my Camtasia keeps throwing me. So to bring stuff in and out of Land XML, you can see along here, typical, pretty easy to understand toolbar. This will allow you to edit that network once you're in there. My preference is definitely to still draw my networks in Civil 3D and bring them into here. The import process is pretty harmless. But to bring the XMLs in and out, I come up here to the XML in and out. Brings me into this into here. I'm going to browse out to that live one that we just did, and go ahead and open that up. And so once you've opened, you haven't really opened, push open and it brings that in there, and then you still haven't really opened, and so you select this, but it is telling you I have 15 pipe. It's saying pipe networks. It's a little bit of a misnomer. That means 15 pipes are available in there. So we'll go there, and then you can see quickly it then brings that into there. And the quickest way in, I can get and select a pipe if I want to edit a specific pipe. I'm going to deselect off of that, and basically you come over here to data, and that's how you get everything in there, the hydrologic information, and edit the hydraulic information within the pipe. And so in here you can quickly see, and I'll bring it out into one that I've already done a little bit more on. But you can come in here and, just for the sake of expediency, I'm just going to enter a known Q into that pipe. Once you've done that and done an edit, I can come in here also and do the drainage area. I can do runoff coefficient or percent, percent up to 3 different areas within that catchment. And I can do a user time of concentration, or it brings you out in a TR55 worksheet, and you can use that to calculate it as well. So then, and I'm seeing the time near here, so just to move along. So I'm going to say okay with that, and this will give you, let me just real quick open up. I'm going to open up that one that you saw open when I first got in here. So once everything is built within that, then you can come in here and do run, compute the system. You can do full design, analysis with design. Let's do a full design and have it reset our pipe sizes for us as it moves through there. So it quickly ran that, and within this dialog, this is where, dynamically I can move up and down the system. I can also change my pipe sizes dynamically. This red line is going to be my HGL, and so I can do some dynamic editing within that. So I'm going to say finish. I'm going to get out of here into the Excel, and what I've done here, I'm just going to go ahead and back out of this one. Actually cancel. I'll go ahead and save my changes. And I'm going to come into a new. Actually, let's just do do a fresh start in Excel because I want to show you how to build that schema in. And so what I'm doing, like we saw, it's a land XML 1.1 schema that you want to be attached to. And the way to get that in, the first thing you're going to need to do is come in here to Excel options. I clicked up here and came to Excel options. I want to show the developer tab in the ribbon. In this land XML schema, it's a .xsd file, and it's on. I can provide you with the link, but it's just landxml.org is where you download this. So now I've got that developer tab open. I'm going to come here to developer, click on source, click on XML maps, and I want to add an XML map in here. And so I'm going to come here to where I got this built. So you can see this is where I played around with actually and prove the fact that the 1.2 isn't going to work for you on stuff that comes out of Civil 3D and HydroFlow at least. And I'm not sure that anybody would really be using the 1.2 schema just because it's so recent. So I'm going to say open there, and it's going to bring you into, there's multiple schemas available within that XSD, and what you're going to want is the land XML schema. So that's going to bring in everything that any of these programs read. So right here, halfway down, say OK. Yes. Say OK. And quickly that opens up this huge window, everything in the world that you can imagine. And what I'm going to do over here is you basically are going to have this, the XML notepad open. You're going to be looking at your pipes and seeing these names in red are what you're going to want to leave on. Everything else you're going to want to take off and bringing this in. And so the one thing, actually, that I didn't do, I'm going to do it real quick here. Trying to finish up in a couple minutes so we at least have a few minutes for question and answer. Now that I've got this built, I would export this to land XML, and what that gives me is, instead of just the XML that came out of Civil 3D, which has the pipe data in terms of length and material and stuff, but it gives me some flow data coming back out in this XML that can't read back into Civil 3D, but is in there in the XML. So I'm going to export that. And so you can see within this pipe network, the application, and the pipes, and expand that, and I've now got this pipe flow folder, and so it's got the flow in, the area catchment, if I had entered that in, critical depths, and the HDL information that I'm now able to extract into my Excel. So I'm going to come down here and start reducing these real quick. I could bring in my project name to this spreadsheet if I wanted. You can see there's parcels could come in, pipe networks. And so the way this works is it's basically a drag and drop. And so my pipe name, if I want that in there, if I want to get the diameter in there, and then if I want to come down to some of the features and bring in the flow data. Pipe flow, so I can bring in my flow in that way. I'll just finish this up real quick. I've got some, I wanted to start from scratch on this one. I've got a decent one already built, but just to show you too, I mean, I could actually drop those in, so you see a lot of your calculation sheets. You've got something that you want to just keep off to the side. You've already got it built the way that you want it to look. You can put these anywhere on the sheet. Just drop them into that area, and if it's got multiple values, it's going to populate however many you have. If it's got a single value, such as the project name, then it's just going to fill in that one. And then once that's in there, you right click on anywhere within that, within one of the linked schema portions. And, actually, so I go to my XML and I go to import. I'll go ahead and bring in this one, the pipe-dreams hydroflow, and import it. You can see it quickly populates those with all that XML data. And that said, so now we're at 10:53. I definitely wanted to leave some time for question and answer, a little more than I did, so I apologize for that. But you can see it's pretty powerful. And so what we went over here today was you can use custom expressions to affect your label styles. Within some of that, you can bring in some relatively simple hydraulic equations, also some hydrology, which I didn't get into, but you can imagine you could show that also in your watersheds, create watershed tables, do simple rational method stuff within there. It's not going to be the end all, but it can be a good preliminary design tool in terms of those things. You can also, just to be aware of your watershed tools that are available in the display and being able to extract those off of the surface, and then the ability to communicate not only with hydrology and hydraulic programs, but also bring them into your custom spreadsheets that are already built through Land XML, using XML Notepad and creating schemas within XML. So now I'm going to wrap it up, leave it open to questions I haven't even checked to see if anyone's left listening to me, but I got 20 people still here. So let's go ahead. You can turn mute off on your phones or turn your phones back on. Let's open this up to questions for the time we have anyway. And officially what I'm supposed to do here too is so like I said, this is what we covered today. I'll leave that up for just a second. If anyone has any questions on any of the web addresses or where to get any of that stuff, or also, is having problems getting their expressions built, go ahead and give us a call down here for sure. We went through the product demo. So if you want to learn more, we've also got a CAD and GIS interoperability webcast, June 18th. We're starting to work a lot more together. We're bringing in our data sets between our GIS guys and Civil 3D, and you've probably started to see it's really going. Autodesk is picking up on a lot of the tools that have been out there in the GIS world for a long time, and recognizing ability, not only within municipalities, but consultants to be able to communicate with their GIS people in and out of house. We've also got our technology days coming up here up in Seattle on the 24th and in Portland on the 26th. You can go to this website to sign up, or go ahead and give me a call. If you need training, we've got a ton of introductory and advanced courses. Again, thanks for coming to the webcast today. I appreciate it. My email is right down here, and if you want, you can just contact me through PPI as well. Does anyone have any questions?